Welcome to Makers International, a podcast of makers from 3 countries, 2 continents, and featuring 5 guys separated only by the same language. Here's your host, Richard Morley.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good times, whatever time it is, and wherever you're listening. Joe won't be joining us this week because unfortunately he's feeling a little bit under the weather, so we wish him a speedy recovery. But as always, Mr. Chris Cute.
Hello, everybody.
As one might expect, Alan is also busy this week. I do believe he'll be here next week, so we've actually replaced him with another nice Canadian, Jason McGinn. Jason, how are you getting on?
Good. I'm just looking for the squatter right rules here.
No, you're in. That's it. That's it. You've got no escape now.
Alan's not coming back.
We'll take a vote on it. Those of you that are listening live, just put your verdict in the chat, and Jamie will top them up later. Speaking of which, he is currently our resident newbie scroll soarer, Jamie Page.
You right, am you?
Right, am you? And I'm sure as everyone that actually bothers to look at the thumbnails and read what we're trying to blag this week, we've got another guest on. We know him as Mike Murray. You probably know him as Mitre Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Good stuff. Excellent. I was waiting for that. I thought Jamie might have kicked in with that a little bit earlier. But, I will be back with you very shortly, Mike. We just got to run through the shout outs and sponsors, etc. as always. So this week's shout outs and thank yous is a little bit thin on the ground. So if you're listening to this on YouTube in the produced version, then do leave us a comment because we do enjoy it. We've got Andrew McQuillan, Paul Lockwood and Jim Dockrell. Also a big thank you and a shout out to everyone who's listening live currently, and also the listeners on the other platforms as well, even though it's a little bit more difficult for all you to comment. So as always, this show is brought to you in part by Yorkshire Grit, the Woodturners Abrasive Paste, and also still our good friend Chad over at Mancrafting, and he's still giving away one of his awesome mugs. So, Jamie, what's happening with the next or last giveaway for the mugs? The
next giveaway will be next week.
Next week. Oh, that'd be a good one.
Are we going to do it live, Jamie?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
We'll do it live.
All right. Good.
Live over for the people in the chat only.
Next week. Okay.
So sorry, Richard, you won't be able to win. So
I've got one. I've got 2, in fact.
I know.
And they are both awesome.
I've got a whole box of them down next to me. So
How long do they keep your coffee hot anyway?
Like nearly all
about
day.
6 hours. Yeah. Well, as long as you want until you drink it, I suppose.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, Jason, because my wife stole mine. I have yet to use that thing. It came here all nice and pretty. I even washed it, got it out of the dishwasher, set it on the counter. The next morning, it was hers. So, yeah, no. Anyway, so Chad, just, heads up, buddy. And no, just kidding.
Don't turn up next week and sit in the chat room, Chris.
Yeah.
Send them a Yankee one.
All right,
I'll be here because it's my podcast.
Anyway, if you want to know about our sponsors, visit makersinternationalpodcast.com/sponsors. Chris, I believe you have a random question from the internet.
Gee, how did you ever know that? And it's a good one, too, today, because everybody here, I believe, is a woodworker. So this applies, and so everybody can answer. Got a quick question from a viewer and asked, choice for a natural wood finish, boys. What do you use? Like for a cutting board or some type of bowl, or just because you want to leave the wood natural? What apparently somebody wants to finish something and they don't want to put like a polyurethane or a film finish on something. So what do you use? What is your go-to choice for a wood finish?
I'll go for my choice of wood turning finish because normally when I do a scroll saw finish, it's normally just spray lacquer. That's normally what I usually use for that. But otherwise, I use Yorkshire Grit, which can be used as a finish on its own. But after that, usually Danish oil. That's one of my favourite finishes. So, it's normally Yorkshire Grit, Danish oil, and Hampshire Sheen High Gloss.
Awesome.
That's it.
Jason, what about you?
Well, first of all, on the Hampshire Sheen, I bought a little bit, sample, and I went to use it, and I left it in the cold, and it's no good anymore. So don't do that if you get it. Of course, that'll happen to any finish. So I'm just saying. So I am looking forward to trying that sometime. I'll order some more and try that stuff out because I see some good results with it. But generally, mineral oil. I'll just soak something in mineral oil and that's it. If I'm gonna eat on it, cut on it, or whatever.
There you go, Richard.
Yeah, if it's going to be food stuff, mineral oil is quite difficult to get over here in terms of. I've always found it pretty difficult. So I actually use things like walnut oil or vegetable oil and just stuff that you can have in your kitchen. Because
what about baby oil? Is exactly the same stuff in it?
We tend not to have babies in our kitchen.
Oh.
You really shouldn't use the vegetable oil, Richard. But hey, if that's what you're happy with, then I'll let you.
It can go rancid and build up bacteria.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're using it on a cutting board and you're using the cutting board and you're washing it regularly and everything, personally, I don't think it's a big issue because, well, nothing.
What do you reckon I should use on a pallet wood baby rattle?
A pallet wood baby rattle.
Creosote.
Creosote.
Yeah. Old engine oil that when you've drained the sump, change the oil, stick it in a bucket and just drop it in, leave it for about a week just to soak up, and it'll be fine.
It keeps it moist forever. I mean, that's why they use it on the railroad tracks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because babies, they're always dropping things on the floor, aren't they? If left out in the garden, it's fine. It won't rot or anything.
Wash it off regularly with acetone, and you're good to go. Mike, what about you, man? Do you have a choice or a preference, or do you really not even use that kind of stuff?
No, mineral oil. When you were giving out those free cutting boards and you sent me one, I refinished it with mineral oil. But a lot of times I use the Danish oil. I think it's starting to back up again this summer.
I'm sorry. You're breaking up, Mike. I couldn't hear you.
If anybody couldn't hear him, he was saying Chris is giving away free cutting boards.
No, I don't think so. That joke is now going on almost 3 years old, gentlemen. I mean, at what point in time does it stop being funny? I can tell you, it stopped for me about a month after it started, and we're now almost 3 years into it. My go-to finish for anything like that, not necessarily for a cutting board. I mean, to maintain a cutting board, I guess so. But for any kind of wood project that I want to leave natural is a beeswax finish. I usually will soak it or give it a couple coats of mineral oil, then finish it off with beeswax. So I hope that answers the question.
Actually, I do that too. So I'll just add that to my answer.
Okay. Lots of choices out there for you. So I hope we answered the viewers' question. So there you go.
Yeah, just to very quickly add in there, Chris. I know I said mineral oil is I always found it quite difficult to find over here, but I don't know if anyone knows, IKEA do like quite a cheap chopping board worktop oil that you can use, and you can mix that with beeswax as well. So
it's probably mineral.
It probably is. Good.
Actually, you say that Straw Bite Workshop has just written in the chat. It says my favorite finish for cutting boards: mineral oil with lemon oil added. Mineral oil in the UK, get it from IKEA, 500 ml for £4.
Yeah, it is quite cheap. But as most IKEA stuff is actually, dare I say.
Whoop! There it is.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, we do have a guest on, and we kind of feels like we're almost running out of time. So, Mike,
that's it for this week, guys. Come back next week. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for coming on, Mike.
How are you getting on? What are you up to?
I'm doing pretty good. I just finished that cabinet right there.
Mike, audio podcast. Audio podcast.
Audio, Mike. Audio.
People are watching. I am working on a Milwaukee job site drawer organizer cabinet. So it's 6 drawers.
For anyone listening to the audio broadcasts, essentially there is a 6-wheeled, 6-drawered cabinet that Mike is currently pointing at.
Four wheels. 4 wheels.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to be job site,
He slacked off on the wheels. What's up with that?
Cheapskate. Good. So that's going to be a video, I presume. And
yes, I will make a video. Have to edit the video. I will have plans on my website, hopefully by this week.
Brilliant. So people, this always confuses me. People say this week we record on a Sunday, sort of, so about half a week for if you're listening, or possibly even in the past.
Actually, maybe when this gets released on Wednesday, it will be available.
So soon. Go check out Mike's channel and see if it's there yet. If it's not, subscribe and you'll know. How do you? I mean, that's quite a big project that we're looking at in the background there. And people are pretending to look at. How do you find time to get? I mean, that looks like a large project. It's going to be taking up time, and because you're a family man, you've got a full-time job, and I understand you are a volunteer firefighter or fire chief. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. I'm a volunteer firefighter. I raised to the ranks of chief, and I'm in my first year of chief. I have one more year after this, and I've been doing it probably a good 20 plus years. I started when I was 15 in my old town, so it's fun. I like to do it, but I don't really sleep much. I'm usually out here till maybe 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll go to bed and get up for 6 o'clock to get the kids ready for school. I work from home, so my wife helps out and she goes off to work. And when she comes home, I kind of come out here, or we run around with the kids and send them to dance and baseball and softball and all those other sports they do.
Umpteen clubs that children have to be.
What's it like being a firefighter and sliding down the pole?
Unfortunately, the NFPA removed all the fire poles because people got hurt. So very, very few actually have them installed, and probably nobody uses them anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Crikey. I mean, I don't know much about the fire service or the fire brigade in the UK, but I always thought that was first and foremost an iconic thing of
it's kind of
being a fireman.
Yeah.
Well, there goes the fun with the strippers at the firehouse. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah. This day and age, you can't do that anymore anyway. People have cell phones.
Crikey. So, if I
that is never mind. That just kind of insinuates that kind of thing may have happened in the past. Anyway, sorry.
I plead the fifth.
So because I'm actually genuinely interested in this from a practical sort of aspect. Obviously, the pole was so you could get from where you were to the truck and away you go. How do you just sort of have to carefully walk downstairs, or do you all have to be on that ground floor level, or how does that?
No, we have majority of we only have a couple of stairs in the firehouse to get from where we hang out to where the truck is. But the good thing is I have my own fire chief truck out in the front. So when a call goes, I jump in that and I go right to the scene. So I don't have to go to the truck anymore.
Everybody knows when you hit the elevator button, the elevator comes faster. So you guys just.
Yeah,
That's it.
I just thought maybe you guys replaced the pole with a slip and slide downhill.
one of those big like green tubes that you get in the
we use
play
vegetable oil.
Right. Okay.
Like, Alan's not here to ask his normal question, so let's go ahead and back to the roots of Motor Mike Murray. I guess what was Alan's typical question? He wanted to know your origin story, or I think he even
the
asked,
origin story.
he asked Mike Laffey what his Batman story was once. I think it's like well, how did you get started doing what you're doing as far as you're making things it goes? I mean, tell us the story, because I think that actually, unless I forget the story, I think it actually alludes to why you're called Motor Mike. So I mean, I don't know. Tell me how you get started.
Well, the main thing was in high school we had shop class. So I did electric shop, metal shop, wood shop, and drafting. And I just kind of got into it, and I love to do it. And, freshman year, I just picked it up quick. I'm good with learning as I go. And if you show me something, I can remember it probably forever most of the time. But as I was learning, the shop teacher, Mr. Walsh, was like, every project I had to get done for the actual, the class, I had done so far ahead of time that he pretty much let me do whatever I wanted the rest of the time I was there. So I would make 2 projects for every one that everyone else did. And I give one to my mom 99% of the time, and one to my friend's mom, who was like my second mom, second hangout. I used to hang out there all the time. So, and then as time went on, high school, senior year, there was an accident with the joiner. I was on the 4th leg of a dining room table for my mother. The wood slipped and my finger went in. I won't show anybody, but I took part of my finger off, and it kind of scarred me for a while. Like I couldn't go buy any type of motor, blender, hair dryer, and so it was a little, it was a little bit of it was mainly mental, so.
Says the guy who runs into buildings on fire.
For free. For free.
Free.
So, and as the time went on, I still kept doing certain things, I'm handy with my hands. So as my current wife, well, my only wife, I should say, when she was my girlfriend, I used to do things at her parents' house, help out, do odds and ends stuff with them. And as we, got married and got our own townhouse, she wanted stuff done. So I told her, listen, if I'll make you a deal, whatever job you want done, I'll do. I just will get a tool for that job. So she wanted crown molding. So I said, all right, I'll get a miter saw. So she went to the store, unbeknownst to me, came back home with wood and a chop box with a back saw. I'm like, what is this? She was like, the guy said it's a miter box. I'm like, no. I'm getting a miter saw. I'm not getting a miter box. So that was my first playing around with crown molding, and ever since then, I gave that DeWalt to my brother a couple of years ago, and I bought a rigid, and then I won a Festool Capex. So, I regifted the rigid to a great friend, and so I
who the hell's worthy of that?
And that saw only had like 12 cuts done on it. But
by the way, I'm the guy that Mike gave that saw to. So just in case anybody was wondering, my miter saw was a gift from Miter Mike. So thank you again.
No problem. Yeah, I figure I might as well regift. Pass it on. Since I got something for free, why not? I don't need 2 miter saws. So
I don't know. You are.
And that's pretty much. Yeah, I always used. I always used the miter saw for pretty much all my cuts that I did. I did a lot of flooring. I did a lot of chair rails. Trim work. So I always had the miter saw. So it's kind of how I got the nickname.
Yeah, so it kind of sounds like on the face of it, that sounds like a good deal. You want the work doing at the house, honey? Then get the tool, and I'll do the work. And she then goes out.
I figured that was the easy way to get nice tools. And
She got
if I
smart
screwed
to
it
buy
up,
a handsaw.
yeah, she tried to go the cheap route, and I'm like, that's not gonna happen.
No, we're not doing that.
We've got a couple of questions from the chat already. Jim Dockerwood says, obviously you're a firefighter. Have you ever been on one of those calendars?
Yeah, they just haven't been released yet. It's the very large and round ones.
Cold Tope, eat your heart out, I guess.
They only send those out to the angry people.
Yeah.
It's like-
Hat edition.
Portal Woodworks, which is David Jones, he says, ask Mike, Team Scroll Saw or Team Router?
Oh, of course, Team Scroll Saw.
Richard.
Oh, that's fine. I knew he was going to say that. I absolutely knew he was going to say that. I don't know why we let him on the show, but
that's my second nickname is Scroll Saw Mike. So
There we go. And Frank Shamundle says, ask Mike if he would recommend the Rikon vacuum drum sander.
the disc sander? Yes.
Yeah, there you
That
go.
thing
Straight
tears
answer.
stuff up. Just don't push hard on it.
There you go.
what size disc is that? Like a 12-inch
It's
disc?
a 12-inch. Yeah, the 12-inch.
Yeah, they can go pretty quick on the outside edge, can't they? Those larger.
Oh yeah.
But, I'm not a big fan of those personally, because I always feel like I'm just going to take the end of my fingers off. But each to their own.
You got 9 others. Don't worry.
Yeah. I guess that's the point. Because I really wanted to kind of backpedal here a bit and go a little bit more into this the fire chief thing. You say you've been doing that since you were 15.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you do as a 15-year-old volunteer firefighter?
Actually, once or twice we actually got out of high school for a big enough call. But when it's called a junior firefighter. So 15 through 18, you're a junior, and then once you turn 18, you could go to school, fire school, which is usually like a 16 to 20 week, 2 days a week. One day and one weekend.
Right.
One weekend day. So for 16 weeks, you go through your fire school, and then you become a probie, which is like a probationary member.
Yep.
And then once you have your full year in, then you're off a probie on some places. In our department, you're off of that. But some places you have to be, 2 years or however long their SOGs say.
Okay. But when you're 15, what can you actually do? I mean, obviously.
You can help with the ladders, move, stretch hose, bring tools to places. And then afterwards, when the fire's actually out, some departments will actually bring the young guys in and show them, this is where the fire started. This is what happened. This is how we put it out.
So you're actually, as a 15, 16-year-old kid, you're actually going to shouts and working,
Yes,
on a job, an actual, whatever the job.
Yeah. Majority of the time, we don't have, in our department, we don't have any young juniors go to car accidents because of
obviously
a couple of their friends were in accidents that were fatal, and so we don't have our juniors come in just because we don't feel the need that they should have to go through that. So
Well, they don't have to be exposed to that, at that age, I guess. Is what
Yeah,
you're
at
saying.
that age.
that makes perfect sense. But the reason I'm A, interested, and B, kind of want to not just talk about we'll talk about the making. Sorry, Joe, but we'll probably go on for ages on that. But it genuinely interests me because firefighters, everyone always stag doos and the girls swooning and all the rest of it. But in full, actual 100% seriousness, that's such an important job that even though the stereotypes are all out there, I think you don't get enough credit. It's not just old ladies, cats in trees. It's not just burning buildings that we've kind of already joked about. It's all those other things that just people wouldn't want to do, most people, and that needs to be, so good on you for that. And if you're a 15, 16-year-old lad out there going through the trials and tribulations and learning the ropes, as it were, that is mad. That deep respect to somebody doing that. So yeah, fantastic.
And a lot of fire departments, Richard, I mean, and Mike, I'm sure yours is no different, but they also have paramedics attached to them. So if you call for an ambulance, I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise to see an ambulance show up along with a fire truck, because I mean, those guys are out there to help assist the paramedics that are in there too. So
yeah, because in the US, don't they kind of work basically side by side? It's almost do they work out of the same building or very close?
It depends on the areas. Sometimes ours, we're separate, so they'll go out on their call. If most of the time, if there's a major accident, we'll both get toned out to go to that call. We're there for extrication, they're there for the triage, and we're there just to assist them if need be.
Sure. Here in the UK, I think there's a bigger separation, although obviously all three emergency services that worked very closely together for certain things. they're more three separate entities that work together rather than the two together. But yeah,
it probably has a lot to do with the size of the municipality that you live in. Because my local one here in the little town that I live in Ridgefield, they're both attached. Both the fire station and the paramedics are in the same building. So,
yeah, I wouldn't doubt that in the next 10 to 20 years that they'll be together all the time, because it's just the amount of calls that the EMTs go on. They do 5,000 calls a year in our town is like made up of 3 towns, but that's a lot of calls. We as a fire department, we're only doing 450, 500 a year, give or take, unless we get a bad Sandy or Irene come in, then we jump high. But
you do what you need to do when you need to do it. That's
exactly
the bottom line. Yeah, now we can kind of joke.
One of the things that I wanted to know was, I guess running into
boxers.
No.
Answer.
running into burning buildings is going to cause a lot of chafing, so boxers or briefs. But you already answered it.
You're the first person to spot that.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
That's
So
awesome.
you broke history.
Jamie's page.
He just stole all your thunder,
2 in 1
Jay.
right there.
He did. Lucky I'm better than him at the scroll saw, isn't it?
That's a time-served, highly trained firefighter there. He like a coiled spring. He preempted exactly what you were going to say and leapt in there. So, of course, everyone knows firefighters and all the emergency services. They do what they need to do when it needs to be done, and they get it done. Of course, when there's nothing to do, firefighters, they kind of just sit around drinking coffee, and hence the reason you've got so much time on your hands to scroll saw, presumably.
Yeah.
Because one thing one of your videos I watched sort of kind of in preparation to this, and despite what Chris says, I do a little bit of research on people dependent on the time available. You did a video where you rejigged the toolbox on the fire engine.
Yes, on our heavy duty rescue, we built that 2 years. Oh wow, was it 2 years already? 3 years ago? Yeah, and
Way to stay on top of things, Richard.
No, trust me, there's a segue.
so what I did is I had contacted. We had tools, and we had those stupid magnet ones, and it was all over the place, and nobody put tools back properly, and you never know what's missing. So I contacted FastCap, and they graciously donated it to the fire department, and I figure why not do a video on it. So the stuff's great. I mean, it holds up great, and it's still, you just pull the drawer out, you can see what's missing, where it goes back if you take it out. So
yeah, I can imagine when you're actually working on a job that potentially there's kit everywhere, all over the place, and that's all got to be accounted for, go back where it's needed for the next time you go out. So the organisation is absolutely key, which probably is why your workshop appears, although currently you look like you're in the middle of a hurricane, actually, but I was going to say project. You do quite a lot. I said do again.
You said do.
I refrained from. I was going to point that out.
You do a fair amount of shop organization type video and workshop sort of videos, as well as the sort of the need to build stuff, don't you?
yes, yeah, I try and if I see something that I can improve as far as organization, I do have a Craftsman tool cabinet over there that will be gone once I build my huge miter station on this wall, and then I'll re-gift it to someone else. But it's just trying to make it functional and places, because I can go to that with my eyes closed and I can tell you exactly what drawer has what. It's been like that for 15 years, the same things in each drawer. So it's just repetitive. So if somebody calls me up, like my son says, "Where's this?" I'll tell him, where it is if I'm not home. So I just kind of like, keep things where they belong, and you won't lose them.
And potentially, I guess there's a bit of the organizational sort of fire chief head on, knowing where things are and what needs to be done, and all the rest of it. And that then translates into your workshop environment. But what are your kind of your favorite, all these projects aside, you just now got time to do whatever you want. All the tools are there, all the materials are there. What's your sort of, where would you naturally kind of drift to do a favorite type of project?
As of now, it's been the scroll saw, just because I can sit down, I can put some music on and just go to town. And I've had a couple of, late nights, Jamie can tell you, that I've been out here, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and not really knowing where the time went. And I'm like, whoa, it's just, you get into like a Zen feeling, you relax. And
so are you doing sort of portrait work, or, baskets, or some of the more intricate?
He's not as good as me. He does word art.
I design my own now.
Yeah, I'll get Mike to do mine.
So I just started, to tell you the truth, I just really started doing the scroll saw. I think it's almost a full year now. And I was like, what the heck is this stupid tool? I bought one when Kmart was going out of business, and it was sitting on my shelf for 10 years. And I'm like, I broke it out one day. I said, let me cut my wife handprints from the kids, trace their hands, cut it out. Here's a crummy Mother's Day. She cried. It was great. But and then
that's what Mother's Day is for, isn't it? Making your mum cry.
Then I got the
Cried, it
DeWalt.
was great.
I got the DeWalt, and it was like night and day as far as the cut on it. And and then I started using spiral blades, and I like to do it. I've done a couple of portraits. I've done a couple of Charles Deering patterns. Who Charles, if you don't know, does like psychotic detail on his patterns, which I kind of like, because I like a challenge as far as to do something. So I did a bunch of patterns of his. I'm doing a bunch of word arts. I designed one for my wall art for my niece, or actually for my sister-in-law, because she was having a baby shower.
You did one, and I'm not a fan of actually using the scroll saw myself. But I really do appreciate that. I appreciate the talent. I appreciate the talent that goes into it, basically, because the first tool I ever had in my shop was a scroll saw, and to this day I still stink at it. I'm just not any good. It might have, I'm going to blame my tool. I have a scrappy scroll saw, so that's its fault. Honestly, it's just because I suck at it. But you did. I saw that you did something recently, and Mike, I thought it was just it hit the heart. A friend of ours, the people that in the community may know, Paul Mayette, and Paul had his dog passed away, and you got to understand that Paul loved that dog. I mean, that dog was his child. And Mike reached out and got a pattern made of the dog, and you actually scroll sawed that dog out for him and then mailed it to him, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. We in the background, I contacted his fiance, his girlfriend, fiance. Sorry, Dorian. I forget.
Significant other.
The boss of the house, I should just say.
Yeah,
and we kind of, she sent me the photo. I had it, drawn up, and then I did it and mailed it off to him. And, he loved it. And she said, he loved it. So.
Oh, I know Paul, he probably cried. Yeah, it does.
Hopefully he cried, because I was, choking up when I was doing the video. I had to, you don't know how many outtakes that took.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because we put our dog down 2 years ago, that, the chocolate lab, and he was probably the best dog we ever had, other than this pain in the neck we have now. I think she's a lap dog. She's 150 pounds.
No, but I just saw that
they're good with the kids.
No, I just saw that you did that, and it's always cool to see guys using their talent that they have, and you know, to send something like that to somebody. That was really nice of you, man. I just want to point that out. That Mike is actually a really nice guy. Depending on forget what you hear about him. He's actually really nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's some vicious rumors.
It's all lies.
Despite being a scroll saw, we'll let that slide just this once.
I did use the router in I don't know if you saw the video when I did the.
Look, you had to go and ruin it.
Well, I do more scroll sawing than I do router, but I did make my own
That's
molding.
Richard, you should just calm down. He's got a Festool Capex. Okay, that should make you happy. Now just be quiet.
And I got a domino, and I got a track saw. That's about all I got.
We're like that now, you and I.
I do have to admit that rotor is pretty exciting.
I feel sick.
and he's got a DeWalt scroll saw as well. So sorry, Jamie.
He's got more than one.
Well, no, I gave the other one away. Well, I traded the other one for some wood.
Keep talking.
Jamie's just off the crying
I'm
now.
just getting annoyed now.
Bless him.
Oh my god.
No, I mean, going back to the scroll saw, and I'm quite happy to go back to the scroll saw topic. I'm not a fan of. Everyone knows that. If anyone listens, even for a second, they'll know I'm not a fan of scroll sawing. But you can't deny it's a very kind of versatile tool in so much as the projects that, if you watch people who scroll saw, they translate into so many different like portraits and personalized things, and they can be, just that very personal, giftable creations that people make. And it is actually a good tool to get into woodworking with, in a very low budget and very small space and all the rest of it. So from that point of view, sanity levels aside, it's actually not a bad starter thing.
It's a great tool for kids and for the mentally challenged, like Jamie, and because it's really hard to hurt yourself on a scroll saw. I mean, I've never heard of anybody cutting their finger off on a scroll saw.
Carl.
Yeah.
Carl. You should have used the spiral blade. It burns before it cuts.
But there are some scroll saws, and I've used one where the blade oscillates at I don't know if it's the distance that it oscillates or the frequency at which it oscillates. It's less than the flexibility of your skin. So you can literally have it going and put your finger on it, and all it does is it just moves the skin. It doesn't actually cut your skin, because obviously your skin moves around. So they can be very, very safe, almost foolproof.
Okay, I'm going to ask a stupid question, and this is going to show you how little I know about today's scroll saws. Mike, that DeWalt that you have, does it have like a variable speed to it, or do scroll saws have variable speeds?
Yeah, they have variable speeds.
Okay. And
I only use it on the fastest speed. I've never really attempted. It's probably, a rule of thumb to see what speed you're supposed to cut at, but I just cut it fast.
Oh, yeah, I'm exactly the same. Always leave it full speed.
I was just curious as to what, then I won't ask, but I mean, because I was going to ask, why would you use it on a slow speed as opposed to a high speed? Because it just seems to me like a high speed would be pretty much what you would do everything at. Let's get through this.
I have slowed it down just for one or two cuts. Like if I'm on a real tight area that it's very thin in between the cuts, I will go a little bit slower, but I also have the foot pedal, so I can kind of slowly push on it and kind of gauge, the speed sometimes.
Gotcha.
Does that DeWalt, does it have like the I don't know anything really about scroll saws. Other than they jiggle up and down with the blade, but do they have like the two independent sort of bits that move on the very end of the arms?
The blowers?
No, not the
No. Yes.
The
It has
the Excalibur ones has like an extra bit on the arm, doesn't it? That kind of moves rather than the whole beam. Because the one I used to have, that was like the whole beam jiggled up and down, whereas they seem to be more of a vertical rather than a.
No, there's a bar that goes through the top piece, but the ends will actually have pivots on them that go up and down.
Yeah, my one sort of pivoted right at the back, or it seemed to pivot at the back, whereas those
Yeah.
the expensive ones seem to do it at the front, which presumably is A, why they're a lot more expensive because mechanically they're more complicated, and B, why you'd get a better quality or an easier cut and all the rest of it. Is that? I don't know. Jamie's nodding.
The
I
ones
think it's
that-
a little bit less vibration.
Yeah, and I and maybe I'm wrong, but I have that one, Richard, that you're talking about that has the arm that goes, totally up and down. The entire arm of the scroll saw goes up and down, and that actually, and maybe I'm wrong, and you guys tell me, that actually, in a very minute way, actually cuts in an arc, as opposed to cutting straight up and down, because just the action of that thing going back and forth like this, it's going to pull that blade with it, so it's cutting like this as opposed to straight up and down. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Honestly, anyone listening to this is going to think they've tuned into the wrong show because we seem to be having like a semi-serious, practical conversation.
Told you I'd convert you all, didn't I?
No, you're not going to convert me. Never going to happen.
Jason's over in the corner going, "Why am I here? What are we doing?"
Actually, I keep thinking the one time I tried, because Jamie started picking up the scroll saw back in the day, way back in the day.
Way back in the day.
And so I blew the dust
Still
off
hasn't
mine,
gotten any better.
and I tried to use my scroll saw. I got one of them deltas like you do, Chris.
Uh-huh.
And I broke the blade. I bought a whole bunch of pack of blades. I broke every blade for like 10 tries. And so I was just like, I don't know. I put it back and it's got dust on it again. I just use my my bandsaw, but actually it is one of those tools that I wish I had set up and figured out, because there are those little tiny intricate things that I would love to just drill a hole and cut out the little shape, and then I can add that to as a flare to my box or to my whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there is an obvious niche use for fretwork, scroll sawing, and all the rest of it, which is, like you say, it's that flair, it's that little extra detail that sends something into the next level of wow.
How did you cut it like that? Whenever I ask myself that question, I'm like, that was a scroll saw.
That was a scroll saw.
But or if like me, you dare not admit to you say, "Oh, I did it on CNC," because you're gonna get slagged off either way, aren't you?
I honestly wish I could say
So
I honestly wish I could say I was good at it. I'm just not good at it. I don't have the patience it takes to operate a scroll saw and do the kind of work that Mike and Jamie do. I just don't. I get in too much of a hurry, then I mess it up. It's like, because I'm not taking my time. I want to like, can we just get this done? It's like, but Jamie will stand there for 36 hours, straight and scroll saw the picture of the Queen just because, it's like, are you nuts? No, I can't do that.
I think it's like any kind of discipline within metal, wood, whatever your medium is. People kind of drift to their own little favorite corners. But I mean, how long did the portrait that you did, the dog, how long did that take, Mark, do you think?
I would say start to finish was probably about 6 hours. Cutting it probably 3.5, maybe.
That would have taken me months.
what about the cat that you did, Mike? Because that was very, very detailed.
The cat, I would say that was about 6 or 8. The longest I've ever did was the horse head, which was well over 12 hours, and that was the first scroll saw first scroll saw I did.
That turned out amazing.
Yeah, I liked it. I saw it in Atlanta. Charles brought it down, and I was like, man, I need that pattern. My father-in-law, he's a horse guy, so I actually did one for him and posted it on Instagram, and then one of my wife's friends wanted me to actually cut one. So I cut a second one, which I did faster, but still took about 10 hours. Second time I did it.
That was going to be my next question. If that was sort of one of the first scroll saw projects or the first one you did, do you think if you redid it now, having,
Yeah, if I do that now, I could probably get it done in probably maybe 6 hours.
Mike, we got a question up from out in the chat. We've been talking about the scroll saw long enough, and
plenty long enough.
Yeah, please. I mean, trust me.
So this can't be your answer.
Yeah, so this can't be your answer, or at least God, please don't let this be your answer. The question is, what's your favorite tool, Mike? Do you have one that you just enjoy to use more than another, or is it just basically you like to use whatever gets the job done?
Pretty much whatever gets the job done. I mean, I'm most proficient probably at the miter saw, and then secondly the scroll saw, I guess, because it's just something I've used for many years.
off that, probably a typical question a lot of people have, and myself as well, always trying to dial in. I imagine you use a lot of angles, and you set in a lot of angles, a lot of calculations on figuring out how to put things together. So when you're on the miter saw, what kind of methods do you use to set your angles as tight as possible?
I don't know.
Like for instance, like there's a little bit of play I find in my saw, and so I have to be really careful on how I pull it down to keep the exact, or it'll, when you start making many angles and adding them together, that's where you start seeing those problems.
Sometimes, well, I personally now, if I'm doing like a segmented piece, I'll use the table saw, but I use the miter set, and I set my, and it's, the first time I ever used it, well, the partial bowl that I'm going to turn is still sitting on the lathe, but it was the first time I used that thing, and it was like the jig, and it was like, wow, it's pretty cool. Huh. You just do the calculations of how many segments you want, and it tells you, whatever the angle is, you set it on, the jig, and you're good to go.
Well, I heard those rock.
Yeah, and yeah, they do actually. And Jason, to be honest with you, Mike can't really answer your question because he has that Festool Capex, remember, and it doesn't have any flex.
Yeah.
It's a real hard answer for him. He simply sets the angle and leaves it and doesn't have to worry about it because he's one of those people.
Like a boss.
OJ Woodworking has another question. Mike, do you have a favorite project that you've done? Is there anything that touches you in the feels more than anything else that you've ever done before, or do you just like?
I would say my coffered ceiling in my living room. It's probably my most favorite project so far.
That came out amazing too.
8 months to do, didn't it?
Yeah, it took forever. Because once I started, I was like, I was gung ho, and then it just like, I don't really want to do this now. I want to go outside and play.
Well, you appreciate it now that it's done, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Now that it's done, it's like, why didn't I finish this sooner? So, and that's the other reason why I used the router bit. I actually made my own rosettes. Right? That's what they're called, right? Rosettes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For the intersection of the beams. And then the same profile. What I did is I made to picture frame the window in that room. So
awesome.
That's kind of an old school way of doing sort of architraves or window door trim and things like that with the square rosettes and all the rest of it. But there is a huge sense of pride and accomplishment when you make those moldings. Do you not think when everything's made, just square stock, and now you turn it into something, and then it brings everything together. So.
Yeah, the cool thing is when I did them, I routed the profile and I cut the 45s to make it a square. And the funny thing is the offcuts I would take, and I'm like, oh wow, I have 45s in the opposite direction. Let me just put them together. And it was so close to the same pattern, but it was close. One has a large box in the center. The other one has a small box in the center. So it was like, opposing,
right?
Yeah, design, but they look very similar. I mean, if you put them apart, which I did, you put them apart from each other, you can't tell unless you really look at it.
Well, guys, you don't know, but Joe actually messaged me outside of our normal chat that we have and said, Chris, keep an eye on the time for me. So I have to be Joe today, and I have to point at my watch and let you guys know we've only got about 8 minutes left. So, Mike, what do you got coming down? What can people look forward to seeing on your channel?
Do you mind if I ask one question before we move on to that?
You're going to have to answer to Joe, but go ahead.
All right. Mike, listen, I've been talking to you for a few years now, and I don't think once I've ever heard you mention anything you've done for yourself. You're such a selfless person, and man, like seriously, hats off. So my question is, What is something you've done for yourself?
I don't know. I don't know. I make my shop stuff.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
I guess
as long, as long as I got a roof over my head and my family's safe and healthy, it's
And everybody
as long
else's
as-
family's safe and healthy, and everybody's got some little thing to make them feel better. Then you're cool. I like it.
I'm good.
I'll drink to that. I can totally relate. Good for you, Mike. Good for you.
Absolutely.
As far as what I have coming down the pike very shortly after this video is done and edited, I'm going to be working on a miter, not a miter. Yeah, I got the miter on my head. A cabinet for my Kiss drill bit set for my drill press. And then after that, I'm going to do an ultimate, what did I say? What would I say, Jamie? The Miter Mike's ultimate rigid cordless power tool charging station. Going to house
sweet.
every cordless.
You broke
tool.
up a bit there, Mike. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, you can just rewind. Yeah, all that will be in videos, and plans will be on my website. After that, I really try not to think too far ahead, because when I set something up that I want to do, it usually becomes the last thing I get to do.
Let's do the shout outs, Richard.
We can't hear you, Richard.
Oh, that's because I was muted. I do apologise. I was just going to say, that kind of brings in the selfless thing, and to lead into that again, who would you like? You must watch people. People watch you on YouTube, Mike. Who do you watch, and is there anyone that you want to, focus on, profile, give a shout out to for everyone listening?
Yeah, she's a up and comer. She's a brand pretty much new to YouTube. Make It Soph. She did unfortunately, she had a crummy artistic person to draw a pattern of her logo, which came out great.
I think that Jamie, he's talking about you.
But she also did a new video of a bunch of us makers. Sent her a "How you doing?" clip, and she merged us all together to be one big happy family. Also, can I just plug one other person?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, real quick. Makers Media Network. I'm part of them. It's a free group. It's just a bunch of people that like what we do and support each other. And if you want to check it out,
Where is that, Mike? Is that on Facebook or what is it?
Facebook, YouTube, and there's a website. Jamie,
Yeah.
say it because my tongue is going to tie itself.
It's makersmedianetwork.com, I think.
All right,
Yep,
awesome.
that's it.
Steve's over in the chat if he wants to quickly type in the website, and I'll read it out.
So, well, I'm sure Chris can make sure that's in, or whoever in the description, show notes, and all the rest of it.
I'll get it in the description. I'll find it. Okay, awesome.
Fantastic. So,
I was right. Makersmedianetwork.com.
good stuff. Well, whilst you're on the mic, then Jamie, I nearly said Mike, and that's then going back.
We can skip over Jamie. I can do another one.
If you've got another one, then you plug away.
No. That's right. That's right. Go ahead, Jamie.
Right. Well, first of all, we've got the usual and very first Jamie's page.
God.
So this is actually a little bit of news for all of the people that want to start getting into resin casting or have got a bit of interest in it. Zach Higgins from NV Woodworks. That's WOODWERKS. He's just released a ebook called The Beginner's Guide to Resin Casting. It's basically everything you need to know to get you started on resin casting, etc., etc. He also has a show over on Twitch called Dunkin' Junk, which he takes literally everything you can think of to cast it in resin. That's every Wednesday and Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and he's over on YouTube as well. My shout out is a channel called Sketch Art. The reason for this, it's another thing that I want to have a try at. It seems like something that's really easy to do, but you can bet your bottom dollar that it's not. Have you ever seen them street artists that do the spray can art?
Yes.
Oh, with the spatulas and the newspaper and.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he basically does that, and some of the stuff that he does is absolutely incredible. So yeah, I've been watching a lot of them recently, and he's absolutely brilliant. So
and they're quite quick as well, aren't they? Well,
Yeah.
you see the street artists, and they're like, and it's like, wow.
yeah. So yeah, I came across that channel a couple of weeks ago, and I've been kind of watching them quite a lot. So yeah.
Good stuff. And I don't want to leave Jason out because he's kind of he's not a guest, but he's not a regular. Well, he is a
I've
regular.
been a
but he's
good boy
not
today.
You've been a good boy. Well, okay, then you can have a shout out as well if you've got one. Then.
Well, if you'd like a decent channel to go to, check out Keith Decent. He makes some great stuff, and I just enjoy him. He just put out a recent video on doing some reclaim finishing, like to make it look like reclaim lumber.
Awesome.
So yeah, and he just makes some generally good stuff. And just one more quick thing, because Joe, you love me. He got me thinking. Peter Brown put out a video there not long ago. He had a vacuum chamber and went over it really well, and gave a good idea of how it works by casting a piece of toast, a bread in it. So if you haven't heard of Peter Brown, where the hell you been?
Yeah.
What rock have you been living in?
I haven't seen him come up on the list lately. It's a good, insightful video to watch.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Chris, you presumably have been because you put a video out recently. So have you had time to watch YouTube, or have you just been filming?
I did actually. I saw, and I was looking at YouTube this weekend, and the video I want to shout out this week isn't even on YouTube. You guys are all familiar with Mike Rowe, right? Of Dirty Jobs fame. He does videos. He's doing a video series on his Facebook page. So if you haven't checked out Mike Rowe, check out Mike Rowe on Facebook. And he's doing the series is called Returning the Favor. And this week he put out a video that it choked me up a bit. I mean, I was close to coming to tears. It was awesome. It was a video about a gentleman, I believe, in Idaho who started a nonprofit organization that makes bunk beds for kids. Some of these kids that have never had a bed before and are sleeping on the floor. Some of these kids are,
Chris, I really don't want to interrupt you, Chris, because I know you're in a flow, but I think we're about to get busted because somebody has just popped up in here and they're looking a little bit like they're going to stab somebody. I think it's the best.
Joe's not happy.
Hello, Joe.
Joe, we're only over by a minute, mate. I mean, we'll wrap this up soon.
That reminds me of a story I'd like to tell you.
Anyway, if I could. Anyway, I just thought that was an awesome idea, and Mike did a great job on the video, and it's for kids, so to me that's like a no-brainer. And I'd actually be willing, and I would like to see if there were any people in my local area that would like to become a chapter of this gentleman's organization, because I would, I've got a workshop. I could make bunk beds for kids all freaking day long. I'd be a happy camper doing that. So anyway, it's a really cool video, and the link will be down in the description for you folks on Wednesday. But if you want to see it now, speaking to our, the live chat here, then just go to Facebook, do a search for Mike Rowe on Facebook, and you'll find the video there. It's an outstanding video. And so I just thought I'd bring that up this week. It's my shout out.
Magic. Well, I've got a very quick shout out. It's not actually a video, so there's very little you need to do if this kind of interests you. I'm going to shout out a non-YouTuber, but they are a full-on maker of all kinds of disciplines. It's actually Kat, my other half. I guess when you kind of host a show, you can shout out who you like. But if you head over to Instagram or any of the socials, Twitter, Facebook, all the rest of it. Her handle is @HippieNoodle, all one word. And although she is predominantly a knitter and a crocheter, she just hit, I think it was 1,000, I probably should know, but I think it was 1,000 likes on Facebook. And she's doing what she's calling Makers Assemble. So she's offering up a a swap. She's offering a pair of hand knitted socks in the color of your choice, because she dyes her own kind of really cool, fancy colored yarns. And she just wants to swap with something that you've made. So if you're woodworker, metal worker, jewelry maker, scrapbooker, card paper, literally. And the reason I pick is not because it's cat, because it's open to every maker discipline and worldwide. She wants to swap something that she's made for something that you've made. Kind of a free trade across the globe. So head over there, get in touch if you're interested, and I'm sure Jamie can.
How do you spell it?
Hippie Noodle. So it's HIPPY Noodle, NOODLE. So yeah, just ping her over and say, yeah, I'd like to make this. Would you swap it?
I posted a link over in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I just thought, ceramics or wood, plastic or whatever. It could be a way of getting other kind of disciplines and interests and hobbies thrown in. So
That's awesome.
that's more people should do things like that, I think. So yeah, makers assemble. That's the thing that she's running. I don't think we've done too bad, actually, considering we started a minute late, we're 3 minutes over. We've covered an awful lot. There's just one last thing I want to make sure we don't miss, and that is, Mike, where can everyone find you across socials, internet, all the rest of it? Where can people go if they don't know or haven't seen your stuff?
The easiest place is probably MiterMikesWoodshop.com. It'll have my links to all my social medias right there.
Good stuff. And we better do the same for Jason as well, because kind of if we need to grab him in last minute on another show and we don't let him plug his stuff, he might say no and leave in the shtuck. You know what I mean? So Jason,
I would
where
hold
can
that
everyone
against
find you?
I'd hold that against you for at least 5 minutes.
As long as that.
Yeah, you can reach me at McGinn's Woodshop, MCGINN, and I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I haven't been active on YouTube lately, but I got lots of videos there to keep you entertained until I get around to it.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I've been so busy since before Christmas. I've just put a video out. I've got more in the pipeline, but it's all well and good doing the work, but you've got to do all the after work, the videos and all the rest of it, which anyone putting videos out will probably be able to attest to.
Yeah.
Everyone nods profusely. Cool. Well, unfortunately, I think that is pretty much about all we've got time for. I can feel Joe nodding feverishly as well. So if you are still listening, thank you for getting it this far. And, Mike, Jason, thank both of you for coming on. It's been a blast, but, we have to draw a line, unfortunately. So until next week, thanks for coming on, Mike. Thanks for coming on, Jason.
And then we could go as long as we want.
I'm happy to. It's just like
You guys don't have to.
you.
You guys don't have to answer to him. I do. So no, I mean I love you, but it's time to say goodbye.
Unfortunately, it is. So until next week, are we going to tell people what's happening next week, or are we going to not say anything? Because if they find out, they won't actually bother turning up.
No, we've got it. We've got a special highlight.
We're giving away a cup, so they will turn up.
Yes, next week we're giving away a cup live, so make sure you tune in. So until next week, when we're giving away a live mug, you take care.
Have a good week, everybody.
Ciao.